Yeah. Well, Romeo, his office is right across the hall from mine. My first year at New England, and actually Corey and I shared a little closet that we lived in for a full year there. So he was just one of those guys that would always come in and check on you, and obviously had been through kind of some of the stuff that we were going through, and had great advice, and always just I'm sure you've heard Rack. Talked about before, is a very fatherly figure. He's got great wisdom. He's got a mannerism about him. He's an extremely caring, kind person, and just one of those guys you meet that you just instantly are drawn to. And I think that for me, I've always stayed in contact with him. I've always tried to, just ask him advice. I've been a big fan of his throughout his different stops that he's been, and certainly someone that I've just kept in touch with, for a long, long time, and just have grown that relationship over those years. So he's a tremendous person. He's a great coach. Great, even better person, but just, one of those guys you want to sit down and talk to a lot. He's got a lot of just incredible wisdom about him.
And then in terms of the game, with Cooks and Fuller, those are two guys that have proven time and time again they can take the top off the defense. When you have two of those guys on the opposing offense, I don't know how often you see something like that. Does that change the defensive looks you have to play to account for that speed?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly have to do that. You have to account for that vertical speed. They can really hurt you going vertical, and sometimes you have to change up some things that you're doing in order to make sure those guys don't get behind you, because they can very quickly. I would say another thing that they do really well is there's some intermediate routes in there that they run, and Cooks does a great job too of the catch and run plays. They have some really good design plays where he's going to get the ball short and he can turn them into 50-yard touchdowns in a hurry. Fuller too, as there's some third and long situations, they'll just give him the ball and he can run for the first down. So. It's kind of a combination. If you go, if you play too deep, then there's a lot of things open up underneath, and when you roll up there really tight, then obviously they can get behind you. So it's a kind of a back and forth a little bit that you have to play within the game because of that, just that dynamic vertical speed that they have.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Tim?
Hey, Matt, Houston struggled all year to stop the run, but you saw on Sunday, I mean, New England came in there. They're a pretty good running football team. I think they were third coming in at 55 yards, 2.9 average. I'm curious, did you see anything different from Houston defensively in terms of stopping the run?
I mean, I think that certainly, very familiar with their defense and some of the things that they're doing. And I think you see where their techniques really, they played them very well this past Sunday. Really good job getting off the ball, getting extension, hand placement. Thought they did a great job with the tight end side. Really had a couple different looks over there that, J.J. Watt, was just as disruptive as ever in the run game. And, they have some really, fast guys on the field. I think that Cunningham, they did a great job of freeing him up and allowing him to play fast and vertical into the run fit. So I know that that's something in that defense that will always get better each week. And it looks like last week they found a really good mark for him, and I'm sure they'll be ready to go again this week with the same sort of focus.
Thanks.
Michael?
Hey, Matt. I'm actually curious how y'all handle Thanksgiving this year. Not like, obviously, the game, but the holiday itself, because a lot of times players have family come in, they'll try to get away. The day after, that's not really something that's possible this year. Have y'all changed anything or altered anything to kind of accommodate for them or kind of make it more holiday-like, I guess, with them?
I'm going to try to get the question here a little bit from you. Obviously we're focused really on the game, and obviously the holiday is a big part of it. I think everybody in the country obviously is going to do things a little bit different, this weekend. And certainly, for us, we also have testing protocols that everybody is, through the league still involved in. So I think it's kind of like everything right now. 2020 has just been different all the way across the board. We know that. So we just kind of take them day by day. And right now we're really focused day by day to get to Thursday. And then, we'll deal with the weekend when we get to it.
Let me ask that question way simpler. Are y'all doing anything different for Thanksgiving this year? Not game related, but just like overall for players because maybe family can't come in or anything like that?
Nothing specific, I guess, that I could mention other than the fact that, we're all kind of under the guidelines of the COVID testing, so that does change some things, I would say, from that standpoint.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thanks, Matt.
Chris?
Hey, Matt. It's kind of a broad question here maybe, but Taylor talked yesterday just about some of the communication issues the offensive line had. You guys obviously had the penalty with the formation on the touchdown pass. Penalty formation on the touchdown pass there. How much different is it to coach mental mistakes during the week than to fix physical mistakes, if that makes sense? Like, do you approach them differently when you're out on the field?
Yeah, really good point. I would say, obviously the two parts of the game, the physical and the fundamental, and always correcting those and trying to improve those. And then obviously the mental part of the game, which is so critical, to the game in the NFL, is communication and recognition, awareness, and being able to, get all that stuff right, especially with the offensive line where everyone's got to see it the same way. So we correct them all the same. I mean, they're all things that we have to address and get right. Some of the mental part of the game you certainly can do, through the film study and through the different, things that we do during the course of the week to obviously get the game plan correct. But you can do that with fundamentals too. You can show examples on tape of what fundamentally you want it to look like. And all of that transfers to practice. Obviously practice is the most important thing that we can do to help us prepare for the game. It's the obvious closest that we get. But, this week on a short week, it's a little bit tough. So we got to try to get that in those walkthrough settings and get that communication. Even though physically we might be moving a little bit slower, mentally we have to stay sharp and stay on top of everything.
And then obviously this week is different, but sort of along those same lines, I know you've said that, practice to a game is not necessarily linear. Like sometimes you can have good practice weeks and not play well and vice versa. But when you do have, maybe a Wednesday or Thursday that looks kind of ugly, how do you correct that on the fly? I mean, how do you make sure that doesn't keep going for 2-3 days?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's certainly something that we actually deal with right after practice when we have those film sessions of practice and we go through a review and we get everything corrected right there. And we'll always have a little bit of a carryover from the day before built into practice where we get things corrected and we got to be able to go out and do it right the second time, and sometimes, look, if it's not right the third time or the second time, you just throw it out. It's a bad game plan, it's a bad play, it's something that's not going to work, and you just get rid of it and move on. That's part of it too.
Thanks, Matt.
Dave?
Hey, Matt. Excuse me. First thing, just how well do you know Marcus Paul? And, regardless of his situation, what's going on right now, do you have any favorite stories about him, favorite memories with him that you shared?
Yeah, I think I heard that there was a situation in Dallas with Marcus, and I'm just probably going to refrain from all of that right now. Respect for him and his family. I'm obviously praying for Marcus and praying for his family. He's a very dear friend, and he's a great person.
All right, yeah, we'll keep him in our prayers too. Just about injured players this week, and specifically a guy like Kenny who hasn't played in a while. Since you guys aren't practicing this week, there's a lot of walkthroughs. How do you sort of judge? Whether they can return this week, I guess, or not.
Yeah, our process for return from injury will still be consistent, with the training staff and the doctors and the strength staff. They're always trying to do the best they can to evaluate, the injury and the recovery from the injury based on, whether it's numerical numbers that we go against with strength and flexibility and things like that, and just try to make the best decision that we can based on, what advice and feedback that they're giving us from that standpoint. And obviously the player too, those guys that have been doing this for a while, they know when their bodies are ready and they'll let you know.
And then last thing sort of ties into that, but Vaitai, he didn't play obviously in the second half last week. Was that an injury related thing? Was that a performance related thing? And how do you think he's played to this point, overall this season, I guess? Yeah.
Big B's, out there battling every day. And I think he's pushing through some things that, have restricted him a little bit. He's a tough guy. He just goes out and really tries to do everything he can to help the team. So at that point, I'll probably leave it at that as far as that's concerned. But he's tough and he's fighting through all of it the best he can.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we'll do two more. Aaron Wilson in Houston.
Hey, Matt. How you doing? Thanks for doing this. Matt, wanted to see what you thought of Deshaun Watson and his progression this season, as far as his accuracy as a passer and just overall growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining the call. I think, for me, I've seen Deshaun Watson since he stepped on the scene, and he really had a huge breakout game against us a long time ago. He continues to just, I'm just amazed at his improvement every single year, the way that he has more and more control over the offense. his ability to change plays at the line of scrimmage. I think as a quarterback, as a skill set, he's extremely talented. He's got an incredible arm. He can make every throw. He really does a great job of keeping his eyes downfield. He sees the coverage. He's obviously tremendous at escaping pressure and getting out of the pocket. And, I think as you study it, and more so, what I'm seeing now, you think you might have this is where he's going to scramble, and all of a sudden he'll change direction. He'll go out the other side and just get away from everybody. And with the speed that they have on offense, it's really remarkable how great of a job he does, getting the ball out to those guys downfield. Everybody stays with the play, and he extends the play, and they're just more and more on the same page when those things happen. So that, along with, there's a lot more of the RPO system kind of into their offense right now, and I think he is starting to take that to the next level, and it looks pretty scary. A lot of that stuff is usually built with some pretty quick throws off of it, but now you're looking at the vertical passing game that's along with it, and with his arm strength and his ability to move and accurately throw on the move, that's a problem.
Matt, lastly, Jared Mayo, you got to know really well in New England. What do you think of him now that he's in the coaching profession, and what were some qualities you saw in him that kind of said, hey, he could probably do this and be a coach in his future? Thank you.
Yeah. Gerard and I go way back. So he's, one of the guys I drafted when I was at New England. I think that from day one that I met him, he is someone that just, he loves the game. He's extremely smart. He studies all the time. And as a player, I basically sat him in a room with a couple pretty good linebackers and just told him to listen, and he did. He just absorbed all of it, and that experience I think that he gained, he just took over, with him as a player, and then you see it as a coach. He's just he's just great. I think he does a great job with those guys. I've seen those guys develop at New England, and like I said, I'm very close with him. He's like one of my sons, so I just wish him the best.
All right, we'll go Stacey Dales, last question.
Hey, Coach. My question, Matthew's never been shut out in his career. Very strange to not see him score points. And without a couple of really important pieces offensively. I'm really curious to know what kind of response you've seen specifically from him this week coming off that shutout.
Yeah, he's obviously a tremendous competitor. So I think even right after the game, having a conversation with him and just knowing, he just wants to get back out there and get going and go compete. Understanding that we had a lot of work to do to clean up from last week. I thought he was, standing in the pocket. He was trying to get his reads. He was really pushing the team, best visibility, and we got to rally around him in those situations and do a better job. And that's the beauty of football. It's a team game, so everyone's got to go out and perform. But certainly, his leadership is outstanding. The way that he approaches everything every week is outstanding, and he wants to win. He wants to compete. So he's ready to roll. We hit a Wednesday, Thursday day in one day, and we'll go walk through. And I know he's just keeping pushing to get ready to go play on Thursday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks, Matt. You too.